Like to be back in this. Yes, and not I forgot my phone. It really bothers my boyfriend. I always forget my phone. But, I'm so old. I remember when we didn't have phones to take with us. But now everyone assumes we have a phone. Yeah. Yeah, I think for a number of years. It's culture to theory.
I guess something that's really clear there's a million directions. It's simple. And hiding behind those directions are your feelings.
Right, yeah.
But if the directions are there, they're really closer to the feeling state.
Yeah, so it is.
It shows up like,
So it's the last before we come to Well, all of you move a little closer. Yeah.
As close as you can.
Even if we didn't shower today?
Today is for you.
yes.
Partly because we are recording this.
Yes.
You speak in between, but you are too far away, it won't record.
Absolutely. Yes. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming, and most of all, really thank you Ramanandji for taking the time to come. It's a sincere blessing to have Ramanandji here, and it's certainly a blessing just to be all together and to be in this space once again. And so thank you all for being here. And Ramanandji, thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I'll leave it to Ramanandji.
Let's begin with Patanjali invocation. Together. Yogena chittasya padena vacham bhavam sharirasya jagarijakena yogaparanam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Bhavagurushakaram Shantachakrasiharinam Sahasrashirsamshritam Pranamami Patanjalim Hari Om. Also, we are attempting to study something that is more a scripture. So we would invoke Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. I will chant it. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. The basic meaning is that we are embarking on a study. Please brace our attempt to study this. And also, when a study happens, a discussion happens, there is always a mixture of agreements and disagreements. But those agreements and disagreements, particularly the agreements, there is no problem, generally. But when there is a disagreement, maybe not argue with each other. Okay? We respect those disagreements. Suppose I say something about God, and you disagree what I'm saying. Your response should be more like, I don't understand, not Ramanand, you're wrong. Don't make anybody wrong. Whatever you understand, for the time being, it is correct for you. You may change your views later. And we know in this world, different people have different belief systems. We try to look upon the way we approach the system as we are attempting to investigate and find out the truth as best as we can. Which means whatever I say today to be the truth is according to my understanding now. That may change. Not only changes because of my own thinking, but it changes because of what other people say also. Nobody is wrong. Everybody is saying what they feel is correct. The only objection is, do not force your belief on somebody else. And certainly don't resort to violence to do that. Discuss things as much as you want, but trying to force somebody to convert them to your belief is completely not acceptable. Okay? I have a few handouts here, just pass it around, please. Thank you.
What?
Complete this. When I tell you this, read that 33.
Okay.
Somebody else who speaks English?
Anybody?
This is a very long exposition of the sutra. And then there is the one that is written by Mr. Iyengar, that is in the handout. Thank you. So somebody read the number 33, which is on your paper. What is the translation given? So anybody wants to volunteer to read it?
Maitri,
One?
Read?
Yes.
yeah. Maitri, Karuna, Mudito, Prekshanam, Sukha, Dukha, Punya, Punya, Vishayanam, Bhavanartha, Chitta, Prasadam.
Good. Now read the English translation.
Maitri, friendliness.
Now
Karuna,
just read the two. You don't have it on that?
okay, I have my book
Read
here.
this part. And read it loudly so it can get recorded.
Oh, this is Guruji, I got it, yeah, 132. So I read the translation of this translation. Through cultivation of friendliness, compassion, joy, and indifference to pleasure and pain, virtue and vice respectively, the consciousness became favorable, disposed, serene, and benevolent.
Okay, we'll look at that more later. The last commentary here, I will read it. Of these, meaning of all the things that are stated in the sutra, of these, a spirit of friendliness should be entertained towards those who have experienced happiness, meaning those who are somewhat enlightened. A spirit of compassion towards those who are in distress. A spirit of goodwill towards those who are treading the path of virtue. And a spirit of benevolent indifference towards those in vice by overlooking their faults. This sort of thought gives rise to cleaner virtue, and thus the mind becomes pure. A purified mind, becoming one-pointed, eventually attains serenity. What do you see a basic difference between what this book says and what Mr. Iyengar's translation is? Before we do that, Kofi, my friend, has written his own understanding of the sutra. So read that one, number 33, please.
The mind becomes purified by cultivating friendships with contented people, by being kind and compassionate to the sad and fearful, by being indifferent to the ill-intentioned, and by being accommodating to the well-meaning.
This is written, you can close it. This is written in what is called sutra format, just like Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you know. Sutra format has got a very specific rule of writing a sutra. There are several things, I won't go through each part of it, but one part is that you cannot contradict somebody that is some sutra that is already written before. Because sutra has been very carefully examined, you should be extremely careful to differ with it. Because when I find that I have a difference of opinion to what the sutra is saying, my attitude should be, I don't understand something. Not that the sutra writer is wrong. So, what do you find the main difference between what Mr. Iyengar is saying and what these two other books are saying? Shall we read it again?
Yes, please.
Okay, this book I have says, of these, a spirit of friendliness should be entertained towards those who have experienced happiness, a spirit of compassion towards those who are in distress, a spirit of goodwill towards those who are treading the path of virtue, and a spirit of benevolent indifference towards those who are steeped in vice by overlooking their faults. This sort of thought gives rise to cleaner virtue, and thus the mind becomes pure. A purified mind, becoming one-pointed, eventually attains serenity. See, what he's talking of is the whole reference or study is turned back into himself. And he's talking of what would change in me by studying. What does he refer to? Change what?
The perception,
Beg pardon?
the attitude, the way of seeing.
Yes, compare it to what Guruji has said here. Says through cultivation of friendliness, compassion, joy and indifference to pleasure and pain, virtue and vice respectively, the consciousness becomes favorably disposed, serene and benevolent. There's some very big difference.
Well, the last one is talking about mind.
Louder.
Oh, the previous book you quoted from is talking
Louder.
about the mind. And Guruji is talking about consciousness, and they're very different.
Do you hear that, what he said? What she said? There is a contradiction to very basic philosophy in what Guruji is writing. Because Guruji talks of change to the consciousness. The basic philosophy says nothing happens to consciousness. Don't think of consciousness in the terms of what we ordinarily use, somebody is conscious, unconscious. No, this is the consciousness. Because of the consciousness, variety of things happen. A flower blooms. A dog may have different expression of expressing consciousness. Human beings do it differently. Even within human beings, different people do it differently. They are able to express these differences because there is the primary energy of consciousness. To that consciousness, nothing happens. A simple example, not a very good example, but it illustrates a point. Electricity. In a light bulb, that electricity will give light. If I look at a fan, electric fan, it gives the fan ability to turn around. In different machines, that same electricity is expressed differently. In none of this, electricity itself changes. Compare that to consciousness. Nothing happens to consciousness. In a much bigger way, in an electrical appliance, at least electricity depletes. Consciousness does not deplete. It is infinite by nature. So nothing happens to consciousness. Consciousness in the world as we know is expressed through what is called prana. Prana means life force. And prana also is expressed in different ways by human beings and many other animals by way of breath. In fact, you know the name Hanuman? Most people do. What is the meaning of that word? He's not a monkey god like it is often translated.
It's about the chin and about the breath going over.
Anu means your chin. Man means which rides over the chin, which is your breath. So even in our mythology, of all the characters that are talked about in various scriptures, Hanuman is the only character which is shown to be completely flawless, never makes any mistake. Think about it. If you are about to take an action that you know is not proper, your breath will tell you. Whether you listen to it or not is a different question. But your breath will tell you that, this is not such a hot thing to do. You may still do it because of whatever attraction. So Hanuman is given that kind of status, flawless. In one of the conversations, the deity Hanumana is worshipping is Rama. So at some point, Rama is asking Hanuman, what is your relationship to me? Hanumana gives a perfect answer. This is from the perspective of this being, I am your servant. I worship you, I serve you, I do what you want, I am your servant. From the perspective of the fact that I am a living being, I am but a fraction of you, tiny fraction of the divine. But from the perspective of the divinity itself, which sustains me, I am you. Very complete, very thorough answer. Over centuries, nobody has disputed this. I'm not about to dispute it. But that kind of perfection of understanding. So basically what I'm trying to point out here to start with is, you cannot write a sutra or a translation of a sutra which indicates something happening to consciousness. Nothing happens to consciousness. Very important thing to understand. Because of consciousness, a wide variety of things happen, expressed in different ways in different situations. But to consciousness itself, nothing happens. Part of the reason why nothing happens to consciousness, it is infinite. It's not limited in any way. Anybody has a disagreement with that?
I have a question. It sounds to me,
Please speak loudly so it's recorded.
it sounds to me, both when I've read some of these things and speaking today, I'm hearing the benevolent indifference to both vice and virtue. It sounds to me like an aloofness, a separation. Does it sound that way to you?
No.
I see. Would you explain it, please?
He explains that if I come across people who I consider, in my opinion, that they are subject to some vice, like say somebody is lying, I should be indifferent to it in the sense that I shouldn't blame them. In my understanding, what I should do is, I understand this person is mistaken and maybe needs some help. Indifference here does not mean that I ignore it, but I don't blame them for it. They are doing the best they can in light of whatever knowledge they have. Like, tell me something today, this is San Francisco. More people are leaning towards Democrats. Is Donald Trump wrong?
Well, he is at a
If
level
you are not
of mind.
afraid of being killed.
He's wrong at a level of mind.
You said it.
I have a disagreement with what he's doing. In light of that understanding, I can say that I think he's not right. But I would not tell him, primarily because I don't want to be killed. But in my own thinking, in my own mind, in my own refinement, I understand honestly that I don't agree with a lot of the policies that he has. I may not be free to express it outwardly for whatever reason, but I'm very free within my own understanding to say that, this is not quite cool. To give huge tax benefits to people who are stinking rich and yet punish people who are struggling with daily living. This, in my view, is incorrect. I may be wrong. So another way a friend of mine taught me in discussions is she would not say, not even I disagree with you. She would make me right first. So her phrase would begin by saying, maybe you're right. But then she would say whatever she wants to say. But it's important way to talk. If you make somebody wrong, they put up a defense. And then there is really no discussion. There is only arguing. So whatever you hear that you differ with, first begin by saying, maybe you are right. Meaning maybe I don't understand you. Or maybe I am wrong. Okay. But here is my honesty. So there is a technique of differing with each other. And in the invocation of Saraswati, there is this saying, may we not cavil with each other. That means arguing by making each other wrong. You're free to disagree. But the way you express your disagreement has to be very carefully done. I don't agree with you because maybe I am mistaken or I don't quite understand what you're saying, which doesn't make you wrong. So anybody disagrees with me? Very important thing to do, because in a discussion where our intention is to learn, if you make some speaker wrong, there is immediately a barrier built in, because then they try to sort of convert you. You don't want to convert anybody.
But I think it's important to separate. I think it's important to separate, that you don't
Stop. Please speak loudly because we are recording.
Okay.
Otherwise,
I think it's important to separate the speaker from the idea. You don't make a person wrong, but if they're being violent, you can say very clearly, this is wrong.
no, what I'm suggesting is that it's better to say this is wrong, like you said. But still better would be something like, I don't understand. If I find somebody being violent, I don't like it. I have every right to say that I don't like it. I don't understand it. Like, if you take a soldier in an army, he's in the army, he's trained to fight, and he's going to resort to violence. Is he wrong?
No, because sometimes, it's like not black and white, if it's a defensive position for a greater right, then yes.
Let's say there are two armies. One is defending, the other is attacking. Is the attacker wrong?
The leadership is wrong.
The attacker is not wrong.
Not as wrong as the leadership.
No, again, see, whoever is attacking, if I'm talking to the person, I would say, I don't know why you're resorting to this behavior. I don't understand. Maybe you have a perfectly good reason to attack. Okay? Because of some past history or whatever. I don't understand. But if that attacker says to me, my God tells me that I should attack you, that I would disagree with. Because you are making God your favorite person, you have an image of God, and you are using that image to dominate other people.
Well, like, what about also, like, say, where I think it's more common, violence in a family, right? And it's wrong for a parent to be violent with a child. Well, it's a power imbalance.
So let's say I come across a parent who is beating up their child. What should be my first action?
Make sure the child is safe.
Meaning what?
Separate.
Separate the two.
Yeah.
Stand in between the two.
Yeah.
Whatever blows are given, take it on your body.
Yeah, for a child.
That's what exactly Mahatma Gandhi did. His position was, you may hurt me if I stand in this way. You may hurt me, you may kill me. Then you have my dead body to deal with. But I will not be subservient to what you want. That is the kind of attitude you want to cultivate. And even when somebody who is violent, I'm talking of Gandhiji here, somebody violently hits him, this person is arrested by the police. And Gandhiji says, I will not give any testimony against him. He did what he thought was right. And the person came and became Gandhiji's friend, protected him for the rest of his life. So that's how you deal with people, even when they are violent. Try to find out what is it you want. I want peace, I don't want violence. How can I behave in such a way that I get what I want, rather than make other people wrong so they get more violent? And there are always ways like that. The ways may be quite dangerous for yourself. But the question comes up, is it better to kill in a situation or to die?
Is it better to what?
Huh?
Is it better to what or to what?
Is it better to kill somebody or in a situation like that to be willing to die?
I think if it's self-defense, I would kill someone who's trying to kill me.
Very good. What are you defending?
Life, I'm defending goodness.
No, what you said is more correct. You are defending life, which means you assume what?
My life has value.
That's correct, but little more. You are assuming something which may not be correct. I don't know.
Well, it's life affirming. It's life affirming to preserve oneself.
Anybody else? What is being assumed in what she's saying?
That she's not infinite.
Big one?
That she's not infinite.
That she's not infinite.
Yeah, because whatever dies, that means it was born, whatever born dies.
That one life is more valuable.
I'm sorry again?
If you're willing to kill to preserve your life, then you're saying that someone else's life is worth less than yours.
No, I'm actually saying that this person crossed a boundary and it was violent, so I'm protecting myself, and I think that's really different.
Okay.
What about defending your child or your spouse? I mean, if someone is attacking, someone's attacking my child or my spouse, and then, I mean, to me, maybe it's about me, maybe it's not about me, but my first natural reaction or feeling is to defend that person, even if I use...
Which is definitely correct from the human perspective. I'm asking something different.
You're assuming that there's birth and death?
Better. Who said that?
It's from the
You are assuming that life can be killed. Which means consciousness can be killed. In the very first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna points this out. He tells Arjuna, you talk great wisdom apparently, that you don't want to fight, you don't want to kill these people that are respected by some standard. Okay. But he says, in all that, you are making a primary mistake. You think that you can be killed or you are born. You are neither born nor will you die.
No, of course, consciousness doesn't change, but your human incarnation ends.
So, as a human being in human incarnation, you act according to your best understanding to prevent whatever you consider to be evil. But in the process, you don't have primary anger. Kill somebody
You don't
has
have primary
anger.
anger.
If you kill somebody, don't do it out of anger. Do it to prevent something. But in the process, I'm not angry. Which means, as far as consciousness is concerned, I am very clear that I can neither kill nor give birth. But I can prevent what appears to be a wrong behavior.
I have a practice.
So anger is never healthy
Never. From what perspective?
from the perspective of consciousness.
From the perspective. Okay. In human actions, there is anger that is wrong. But from the perspective of consciousness,
Yeah, that's kind of in the sutra, the detachment, or I can't remember what word Mr. Iyengar used, but indifference to vice, virtue, is seeing it from a bigger perspective.
much bigger, very much bigger. So, all your behavior, from the child to a very enlightened person, there is a variety of people. Everybody acts according to what they consider to be correct. But the higher up you go in that hierarchy, the clearer you are about what is correct. Until you are fully enlightened, shall we say. From the perspective of that being, there is no killing. Friendship also comes from that perspective. Somebody asked one time Swami Dayananda that, since you teach me that I am enlightened, that I am pure consciousness, I will not pray anymore. Because who is praying to whom? And Swamiji's answer was very good. He says, if you know that well clearly, you need not pray. The question is, do you know it that well? Immediately after the talk Swamiji gives, there is a lunch. And this person is running to be first in the line. So it's not very clear that he's conscious. You can't make this as an excuse to justify your behavior. You have to clearly understand. And for someone who is enlightened, in the real sense of the word, means very clear as to, I am consciousness. I am not this body, I am not this mind. I am primarily consciousness. That person, if born in a human form, will simply act to prevent whatever damage is being caused in the best way he can, which would include someone like Gandhiji saying, I will step in there. If you want to kill me, you can go ahead and kill me, but you can't really hurt me. What we assume in ordinary actions, ordinary relationships, ordinary interactions, that somebody can hurt me. That is true from certain human perspective. But from a very high perspective, if I am very clear that I am consciousness, this body, this mind are what are called mithya. I'll explain that in a moment. Okay. Mithya does not mean false. It is translated often as false. Mithya doesn't mean false. Mithya means that which I consider to be real is not strictly real. And to explain that, many examples are given. I'll give you one. You take a clay pot, a small clay pot. And suppose the clay pot has a mind like mine and yours. Just imagine that. That pot will look at another bigger pot. And it will say, this is a bigger pot, I'm a smaller pot. That pot can break also. But in the process of whatever interaction happens between pots, does anything happen to clay? Nothing. That's an explanation, an example to give you what consciousness is. Doesn't mean I'm eager to break a pot or I'm afraid of breaking a pot. Yeah. From the pot's perspective, that's correct. But if I look at the pot and say, okay, what is real about this pot? If you bring a pot to me and you say, this is a pot, I say to you, I see clay. Show me where the pot is. You cannot show me the pot. The weight of the pot is the weight of the clay. Touching of the is the touching of the clay. Shape that is made is the shape of the clay. Clay is real. Is pot unreal? No. Pot has what is called mithya, an apparent reality, but not really complete real reality. There are several wonderful human beings sitting here. Thank you for coming. Each is like a different clay pot. And you may have your differences with each other. Often do. You have a car parked outside, let's say. I try to take your car. You are not going to let me do that. Right? You have sense of possessions, sense of love, which is all not incorrect, but it is limited. It is correct from a certain perspective. If I look at the same thing from a little higher perspective, it is not false, but it is of lesser reality. So what's the biggest reality about you, about everybody here? You are a conscious being. From the perspective of that conscious being, from the perspective of consciousness, nothing happens. Including what?
Death and birth.
Everyone?
Death and birth.
Death and birth, yes. Anything else?
Change.
Change, okay. Anything else? The word happen is important here. For anything to happen, what is the primary necessary requirement?
It exists in time.
Louder.
It exists in time.
It is what?
It exists in time.
In time. Which means time is a necessary factor. If there is no time, nothing can happen. So a primary illusion we all have from the perspective of the enlightened being is we make time real. Even from scientific point of view, the time that we have here on Earth is very different to time on many other planets, many other situations. What is real time? Time is something that human experience creates. On our earth, we look at something that is cyclical, like sunrises, sunsets. Fully knowing, everybody in this room here knows this. Nobody is confused. Does the sun rise or set? No. But try to take your girlfriend or your boyfriend to a sunset and say, look dear, the earth is revolving. You'll get a divorce. So we have constructed a language around our experience, and that language itself is not accurate. And yet, within human interactions and human feelings, we use such language. So in light of that, a very great thing that most people use or believe, I love you. What does it mean?
That you have the illusion that you're separate.
Without that illusion, you can't say it. Which means for me to say I love you, I have to necessarily assume that you are different from me. That's a mistake from the perspective of consciousness. How can that love be expressed? You cannot express it. You get dumbfounded. Because even as you try to say something, you are very clear that the words cannot express it.
What about namaste?
Namaste.
The spirit within you, the spirit within me. I recognize it, I see that. Isn't that similar to love?
Okay, different than love.
Well, yeah.
But I just think it sounds a little bit like the mind is an imperfect instrument that we need to get through life, but
Let me deal with this
Okay.
first. Yeah? Namaste, you're quite right, is explained as I honor the spirit in you as it is the spirit in me. Okay. First question becomes, who are you to honor? Does it even require honoring? You're acknowledging something, okay, which is correct from human perspective. But in that acknowledgement, you are necessarily dividing you and me, which is not incorrect, but it's not completely correct.
Because what is in you and what is in me is the same, right?
Yeah. I have to see you as separate from me. Then I can say namaste. And which would be correct in that situation. But if I don't see you as separate from me, in other words, what I'm asking you is, do I get up in the morning and say namaste Ramanand? I don't do that, right? Nobody does it. At least I have never known anybody do it. They may say namaste Ramanand, but they are not saying to themselves namaste.
If we're talking about sheets of being, then if you say Namaste Ramanand, am I saying that which is eternal consciousness within me, within this whole human construct that I am, recognizes?
In words, what you are expressing is very correct. But is consciousness so small that it is confined in me? There is nothing but consciousness here. So one definition given in our Vedantic literature is, somebody asks you, what is God? Like you ask Swami Dayananda, you talk of God, tell me what is God? And his response is, all that is here is God. Now then to say that God is in me is, it's not in you and it's not outside you. It is all that there is, expressed in different ways. Just like electricity, I gave the example, expressed in different ways by different instruments. Yes?
Could you speak to grief on this subject? Because how can you grieve something that never dies?
Okay, will somebody translate that for me, please?
She said, could you talk about grief? Because how could you grieve something that never died?
Grieving is perfectly normal from human perspective. I miss something, I lose something, someone close to me dies or is hurt. As a human being, I grieve it. But I'm assuming that something is happening, which is not incorrect, but only correct from this perspective of me as a human being. Ultimately, nothing happens. Nothing can happen. Because for something to happen, time is an essential factor. From the perspective, consciousness swallows everything. Think about it. Basically, time swallows everything. Yes? Consciousness swallows that time. So while it is completely correct to say something happens from human perspective, that whole idea that something has happened is not correct from consciousness perspective. See, first of all, I assume I'm this body. The fact that the whole body changes every 7 years, every cell, except perhaps the brain, is replaced. So which is the real body? What I had 7 years ago or what I have now? So that itself is a little different. But the belief that I have this body is correct from human perspective only. And the body will go through changes. Some of the changes I like, some I don't like. For all those changes to happen, time is a necessary factor. But if there's no time, I, Ramanand Patel, in this body and with this mind, I cannot fly. But I don't have it anymore, but I had definitely dreams in which I flew. In that dream time, that was completely correct. If you came in my dream and said, no, Ramanand, you are not flying, I'd say, what nonsense, I experienced flying. Only when I wake up, which means I'm no longer in the dream time, that I say, oh, that was a dream. The time as we know today, if I go back to the philosophy of Vedanta, there are 7 layers of time. This is the 4th stage of time. Within this time, I have a dream, which is another time. In the dream, if the dreamer has a dream, that is the lowest time. So if you want to have the sense of enlightenment, you need to get out of this dream and 3 more layers. Not easy to do. But not easy to do because what is standing in your way is your mind. My mind makes some conclusions, and instead of seeing that this conclusion is temporary or may not perhaps be correct, I conclude that I feel this way, so it must be correct. How many of you have experienced, especially people who are married or have a spouse, how often you come across situations where your spouse say, you said something and you say, no, I never said that. Which one is wrong?
That's called self-defense.
No, both honestly believe that the spouse believes that, no, I never said that. And the other person says, that is exactly what I heard. Neither is wrong. But then if you, instead of understanding that we have different memory of what happened, you make each other wrong, that is slow progress towards divorce. I have a friend who was talking to one of his friends. And he says, I told this friend who was a smoker and smoked a lot. He says, do you realize that, this is slow poison? And the fellow responds by saying, whoever told you I was in a hurry? See, he zeroed in on the word snow or slow. Didn't hear anything else. I thought that was very funny. Another person is told that you should stop smoking, or he is given permission to say, okay, since you are in this habit, you can smoke 1 cigarette a day. So in India, cigarette is called this bidi. Yeah? He goes to the local bidi maker and says, make me a long bidi. And while that is funny, obviously, we all make a long video of whatever we want. And that want belongs to the mind. You can call it belongs to the heart, which is same thing really. So when in the sutra it says cultivate friendship, towards whom? Towards those who are enlightened. Why? It doesn't say cultivate friendship towards all others. It specifically points out cultivate friendship towards those who are enlightened. Remember, you are studying sutra. What is the primary intent of studying sutra? Is to learn who I am. What is my reality? Not what appears to be real, but ultimately what is real, which is consciousness. Okay? But to learn that, you require the first step, which is you read a book or somebody tells you. But then that doesn't translate into my daily behavior. So from that perspective, when in the sutra it says, cultivate friendship towards those who are enlightened, it's not to help those who are enlightened. That friendship helps me to become clearer about who I am. Being friend towards someone who is enlightened helps you, helps the person who is wanting that friendship. Does it do anything to the person who is enlightened? Nothing.
No.
Something may happen to his body or mind, but he doesn't think he's the body or the mind. He doesn't make that mistake. So nothing happens to that person. An enlightened being appears to come to this planet, is born. Why would that being take a birth?
To be of benefit.
To what?
To be of benefit.
To be of benefit. To whom?
The first thing I think about other humans, but it could be other life forms.
To benefit to other life forms. Which means that enlightened being, you are now saying, has to assume that there are others. You see, what you are saying is very correct. But in that thinking, find out what is the flaw.
Well, I'm just assuming, like you're talking about a human incarnation, right? Because I think, my understanding, consciousness does not necessarily need to reincarnate.
Consciousness is not what?
It doesn't need to reincarnate in the human form.
Look at this light bulb. Is light there?
Yes,
Is electricity doing
yeah,
it? Because of electricity, the light comes.
yeah,
Okay? So in that sense, from consciousness, life is expressed in different ways. That is something automatic. Consciousness doesn't do anything. Because of consciousness, incarnation happens. Now I'm saying somebody who is an enlightened being, who is completely clear as to who he is. Okay? That person is born. Why would he take a birth?
I'm assuming to be of benefit to other living
No, you're
beings.
going back through the same cycle.
Yeah, okay, okay.
See, there is a trick in the question I'm asking.
I'm not surprised you have a trick question.
When I say, why would he take birth, I'm assuming that a birth has happened.
Right, okay, right, there is no, yeah, human birth.
Human birth.
Human birth.
The enlightened being doesn't think he's born. He thinks that this body is little.
Is what?
So from the perspective of the human beings, he's born, but he doesn't think he's born. So when I say, why would you take birth? What your mind has to see is, Ramanand, you are wrong, he has not taken birth. He cannot take birth. From our perspective, a birth has happened. But that's not what the enlightened being thinks. I think with my limited mind, and what I see and perceive, I consider to be correct. And it may be correct from certain perspective, but ultimately it is not correct. This has to be ridiculously clear to the mind. The problem is the mind is subject to so many forces, even on this tiny little planet, that if I understand something and I'm very clear about, yes, I understand this, in the next moment you tend to forget it. With the best of intention, you will forget it. Do not forget it at all. What is required?
Presence.
Tremendous silence is required. Not a dumb silence, but a silence in which I'm able to see more and more completely, more and more often, how much distraction there is. Tremendous amount of distraction.
Well, I think distraction is an absence from presence.
Yes. Which raises another question. How many people in the room think that ignorance exists?
Sorry, the what?
Ignorance has an existence. Anybody who says no, I would ask them, are you ignorant about anything?
Lots of things.
Lots of things. So, from that human perspective, ignorance exists. Now look at it from a little different perspective. I'll give you an example. Forget ignorance for a moment. Does darkness exist? We perceive darkness.
Well, it exists in relation.
Does it have real existence?
In relation to light.
Not in relation to light. When the light is blocked because of some obstruction, what appears to us, we call it darkness. But it doesn't have any existence. It's just that the light is blocked. Ignorance is same. There is no such thing as ignorance. Ignorance simply means knowledge is blocked for whatever reason. When there is a blockage to knowledge, we call it ignorance. But light is energy. Ignorance is not any kind of energy. It's just lack of light. Same way, ignorance is not something real. It is just lack of knowledge or a blockage of knowledge. So if in a conversation you tell somebody you are ignorant, what are you proving? That you are ignorant. So instead of telling somebody you are ignorant, if you have to state something like that, the correct statement would be, you seem to lack this knowledge. If I say you are ignorant, I am simply proving that I am ignorant. Nobody is ignorant. Everybody lacks knowledge about something or other. If there is a plane outside and I am about to fly that plane, I strongly advise you not to simulate it. Because I don't know how to fly a plane. Yes.
How about the person that chooses to remain ignorant?
Again,
Somebody said,
How about the person who chooses to remain ignorant?
willful
chooses to
ignorance.
remain ignorant?
Willful.
Willfully.
Well, that's sort of in the sutra, like people who, okay.
From the moment a child is born, to a greater or lesser degree, the child cannot help but want knowledge. So when somebody chooses to be ignorant, there has to be a reason. What is the reason?
Fear.
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 Is fear real? From certain perspective, yes. Ultimately, fear is. What does fear do at its worst? Kill this body? Fear cannot kill me. And yet I am very afraid. So somebody willfully being ignorance necessarily is trying to protect something, is fear. So the thing to find out is, what is it you are afraid of? And you will find generally that whatever he or she is afraid of has no reality. It is just their assumption. And another way that kind of fear is expressed is, somebody is stronger and arguing with me. What do I pretend? I don't understand. I go away. I don't try to fight back. Why? Because I see that if I try to fight back with a person who is stronger and bigger, there's going to be some obvious result, which I don't want. Ignorance does not exist, darkness does not exist. All that exists is light and knowledge. When that knowledge is blocked, I call it ignorance. When that light is blocked, I call it darkness. But neither ignorance nor darkness have reality. They appear to be real as a result of something else. But ultimately, they have no reality. This has to be very clear to a sincere student. So if a sincere student does not understand something, he would not use the words like, I am ignorant. He would say, I don't quite understand. So, and this is to be practiced, In your own life, if you are serious about this search, don't ever use the word, I'm ignorance. Because it shows a lack of understanding of something primary. You can say, I don't quite understand this. So I have to learn about this more. But don't say I'm ignorant.
Because when you say I am ignorant, you're saying I am.
Yes, you can't do that. somebody, a wise man, in India, sometimes in poorer situations, there are people of the village arrange mass wedding. A lot of young boys and young girls are allowed to meet each other, and they decide they are going to get married. This is organized by the village. So this wise man is told that all these people that got married, just give them some advice. So he says, okay, I will talk to them. He says, first few days you are very happy, you are married. And then some of you many of you may be wise enough to tell your spouse that I don't really deserve you. He says, don't ever say that. Why?
Because you're both
Huh?
the same, you're both.
He's talking to these people, saying first few days you will be okay, but then to express your love or whatever reason, you begin to tell your spouse that I'm not good enough for you, I don't deserve it.
You're making yourself lower. You know? Or you're making yourself
Let me
different.
qualify, it's a joke. And the joke is, he says, leave some surprise for the other person. If they are wise enough, they will discover it. There's no need for you to announce this. But that's a little deviation from what the subject we are discussing. Why do I deviate like that? To bring some humor. Because what happens is I'm talking, some people begin to fall asleep.
No.
To wake their mind up, you have to tell a joke. Mahatma Gandhi said something very interesting about humor. He says, in any serious subject, if humor is lacking, or in a humor, seriousness is lacking, they are both useless. Humor without seriousness and seriousness without humor are both lacking.
You said when a being is born, that being desires knowledge. But couldn't it be true that the being born has all the knowledge and he just wants, the being just wants knowledge of how to navigate being a human, because
Okay, translate.
that's, and then it gets all clouded, because I'm just trying to find my way back to, the original knowledge that I probably had.
Okay. He's trying to find his way back to what?
So he says, when a being is born, don't they have all the knowledge? And then they just get clouded and clouded and clouded, and now you're just trying to find yourself back to that.
That's a very interesting observation, because when a child, a human baby is born, that baby has a tremendous amount of knowledge about the previous incarnation. Whenever they express anything like that, the so-called intelligent adults kind of say, no, that's your just imagination. So they destroy it. If we humans find a way of encouraging them and saying, yes, that is true. We don't have a relationship with what you are expressing, but what you are feeling is true, rather than make it wrong, the world will be a very different place. There are solid examples, we know, actual examples. Some child is born who doesn't get overwhelmed with this. Other adults telling him, no, this is not real. He's allowed to express that. And this child expresses some facts about previous birth. that I was born, where I was born, the place was like this is the name of my wife, and these were my children. They invest and actually find that place. He's slowly encouraged to say, okay, good that you know all this, but now deal with the life that you have. Trying not to pay too much attention to that. Not that it is unreal, but your mind is overworking. But there are proven examples of this kind of thing. Proven meaning the psychological authorities from the world, big people, have actually gone and investigated this and come to the conclusion that much as we don't understand it, this person is expressing truth. But he meets his children who are now older than him. So while he recognizes that these were my children, children don't recognize him as a father. Nor should he say to himself that I am the father of these children. In the current situation, you are not. You have been father, but you are not right now. Do you want a situation like that for yourself? In a sense, the fact that you forget that past is a blessing. Otherwise, you can't function. Function in this life. So we have discussed somewhat the first part of the sutra, where it talks of who you should be friendly with. We haven't come to the conclusion or to the end of that discussion. So should we look at the next part? Why? Sutras are written in a very, very, very concise form. So concise that a great master like Shankara, enlightened being, comes and explains that, writes a long, big essay to explain what the sutra is really saying. That is called bhashya. That bhashya is also very difficult to understand because you need a lot of background to understand the bhashya. To explain that bhashya, another commentator comes and writes a huge big commentary on it. That's called a tika. To explain that tika, some other persons has to come and explain that. And that kind of knowledge in the hands of someone like Swami Dayananda, he will talk to us who are very bright to explain to us that what we don't understand. So be very careful. I came across somebody recently who told me that there is a great teacher of Vedanta who disagrees with Upanishads. To me, that's comical. It is impossible to disagree with Upanishads. They have been so thoroughly investigated, so much commentaries written on it, investigated by so many people, that one has to be little careful. You can say that I honestly do not understand this, but you must be very careful in saying sutra is wrong. This person is apparently a great lecturer in one university here in America. And while he teaches these Upanishads, he tells his students that Upanishads are not quite correct. So I asked the question, I said, has these people ever been, he studied from where? He studied from other university professors. None of them have ever studied with a Swami or some authentic person.
Or probably someone who knows Sanskrit. They
Yes.
probably don't know Sanskrit themselves.
To study sutra, what she's pointing out is very correct. You have to know Sanskrit language. It's very, very intricate and very precise. I know this fact largely because other people have told me. Okay? I don't know Sanskrit. I probably know a little more Sanskrit than most of you do because I was born in that culture. But if it comes to a serious discussion between Pandits, what do I do? Listen. I have nothing to say. The kind of practice you have of asana is called yoga asana. Somebody who had studied little bit of alphabet says there are two words here, yoga and sun. Sun meaning the big planet, not a planet, but that from which we are all deriving energy. So this person says the two words are yoga and sun. So I said, first of all, what is yoga? There is no such thing. The word is yoga, not yoga. So this person points out to me, those who know the alphabet, he says, ga is written like this, but there is a vertical line after it. So it is ga. No, madam, that is ga. Ga would mean there would be another vertical line by itself. So someone who has extremely rudimentary ignorance is trying to tell me what yogasana is. Yogasana is combination of two words, yoga and asana. That combination makes yoga san. Yoga asana, not yoga san. My name is Ramanand. It's not Ramanand. It's Ram Ananda. This is why God is so unhappy, because I'm here. All of God's joy is sitting here, so of course he's very unhappy. So any serious study of a subject like this, you quite respectfully and honestly invite me to give you a talk on the subject. I am not qualified. So you just wasted about an hour and a half. What I can point out, and I hope I have done it, is to show, that you have to be serious about this study and understand a lot. Any conclusion in your mind that you draw to be correct, be very, very, very careful. Okay? Yes.
I appreciate your perception of your commentary on the sutras. I also have my own commentary when I read the sutras. And is that incorrect thinking, that mine is just as good as yours?
Not at all incorrect. That's quite correct. For me, I study Yoga Sutras. Whatever I interpret, I say to myself, from my current perspective as I am, this seems to be correct. In other words, my perspective, whatever I understand, I make it correct from my perspective today. What I don't do is that it is ultimately correct. I keep the door open that I think this is correct, but I have a lot to learn. Keep that door open.
So you can view my commentary, my perspective and say, I understand that, and you're probably right.
So let's say I view your perspective, and in my view, that's not quite correct. I point it out, keeping in mind what? Friendliness. Not offending, oh, you know nothing, you are just stupid.
You already know it, no?
I say, whatever you are saying, I understand, but I don't quite understand it. So it is turned into me. There was an interesting incident in San Francisco Institute where somebody was coming to my class long time ago, whose behavior was such that I did not want that person to come to the class. She was disrupting the class. So I talked to another yoga teacher and I said, I don't want to take a position that I throw this person out of the class. What should I do? And this person gave me a very correct advice. I admired it. Said, tell the person, I don't have the capacity to teach you. You see the difference? If I say, you don't deserve to be in the class, go away, or you are disturbing the class, go away, that she can take as an offense. And under situation of California law, she can sue me. Whereas if I say to her, I don't have the capacity to teach you, please don't come, that's a very different statement. The onus is taken on me. Same way in Yoga Sutras, when you have your own interpretation, which according to you is correct or the best understanding you have, take the position that I have this understanding, but leave that door open for more understanding. Especially when you come across people who are more knowledgeable, who have spent lifetime studying it. After all, we all live life, considering we are basically good human beings, we live life as much as we can from what we consider to be correct today. Everybody does it. Even the so-called mad person does the same thing. From their perspective, that behavior is correct. So find out someone that you disagree with and try to talk to them. This is serious suggestion. Try to talk to them, changing this perspective of how you are talking. It's not about them, it's about you. Learn to talk so that you don't make other person wrong. Make them right first. They stop attacking you if you do that. And then say that you have a different feeling, different opinion. Am I wrong? And in my experience, several times I have learned from someone who I thought was not as knowledgeable as I am. But they say something in a conversation which sort of a light goes on in my head like, oh my God, I never thought of it. And if I keep my mind open that way, from everybody I can learn something. I have honestly never come across someone from whom I cannot learn anything. Never. If I keep my mind open, even from their so-called wrong behavior, I learn something. I don't believe anybody gets up in the morning and says, you know what, I think today I'm going to behave badly. Some pressure makes them behave badly. But they don't decide that I will behave badly. And what I call bad behavior is also from my perspective, it is bad.
In the sutra you read today, that would be compassion.
Compassion. Yes, correct.
That we need to have towards ourselves as well, because we all make mistakes.
Just to recognize that when people behave in a way that I disapprove of, they are behaving that way because of some pressure. Okay? Make that pressure wrong if you want, but not make the person wrong.
But if you have that understanding, like, well, you know, whatever the flaw is, like you understand where it comes from somewhere, then that disarms.
Yes.
No, I've always said my father chooses to remain ignorant. He's dead now. But I've always said that. My father chooses to remain ignorant. Now, when you put it in the perspective, when you look at it from the perspective of he's fearful, it's easier to have compassion for a fearful person than an ignorant person. So that's kind of nice.
What's the difference though? Between an ignorant person, a fearful person?
Well, you can have more, I could have more compassion for someone who's scared rather than somebody who's just choosing to be stupid. It's helpful. Helps me.
He died anyway, right?
He's dead anyway, so.
But his
Larry
consciousness
and
is still
Jennifer
here.
asked me to talk today on the 33rd Sutra, or 33rd Sutra of the first chapter. I don't know why they did that. I hope they are not making a joke of me. But without a lot of background of the first 32 sutras, this is really impossible to do. If I am teaching the sutra from the very first sutra, what is the first sutra says? Atha Yoga Anusashana. See, sutras are written in a format which is very different to a story. In the story, there is a wide plot. And slowly, as you read more of the story, it comes to a conclusion. Sutras do the opposite. It begins with the primary conclusion first. If I don't understand it, then only I go to the next sutra. So it expands like that. So 32 sutras have expanded something. I am asked to jump in onto the 33rd and give a talk on it. First sutra says Atha Yoga Anusashana, meaning here begins the story of yoga. Now if I know the story of the yoga, I close the book. The next sutra is only meant for people who don't know the story of yoga. But all of you came very kindly and you have listened to me. Some of the accents you use I don't understand. And I'm sure my accent is equally difficult for you to understand. But here is the truth. I don't have an accent. You have an accent.
You might be right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think in this book, about 133, as you said, the sutras, the first one, if you get it, you just, you're done, you get it. But we never get it, so we